Well, today we're going to talk about addiction. Not the Betty Ford kind, but the Henry Ford kind. Brad Stevens says today's successful entrepreneurs are completely addicted to the discipline, creativity, and constant learning mindset. In short, they're Entreholics. All that, plus marketing strategies, and an intro to data mining. Whew, it's a lot to take in, so strap in to the Peak Performers Podcast.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Brad, thank you so much for joining us today. I know the audience is going to get so much out of today's episode. I'm really excited about this because you have been my go-to guy on so many of these technical things. You've been an amazing entrepreneur, and your new company is just, I love what you're doing, and I know the audience is going to get so much out of today's episode. Entreholic, tell us, what was the brainchild behind this? Why did you start it?
Well, first, thanks so much, Thor. Love being here, and it's nice to feel wanted. That was very kind of you.
No, I'm serious. I mean, that's not a plug. I mean, literally, and we're gonna get into this. I'm serious. It's like you come up with something. I'm listening. I'm like, what the heck is that? And I'm just picking up the now. Full disclosure, Brad and I know each other, so I've got the ability to pick up the phone and say, Brad, what's going on? But he's the guy I go to. So listen up, take notes.
Well, fantastic. Well, glad it's been of value, and I love hearing those kind of reactions. Means you're making an impact. But yeah, Entreholic, man. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. I grew up in it, and ever since I graduated college, I've started multiple companies in different industries, and everything from manufacturing and software and professional services. And I knew after I sold my last business that I wanted to get involved in something to really engage even deeper in the entrepreneurial community. And Entreholic, as the name implies, is this whole addiction to entrepreneurial type thinking. And originally the whole concept was providing services and resources from an entrepreneurial perspective. You know, at the end of the day, as entrepreneurs, we have to be lean. We got to be creative in terms of how we build and grow our companies. And most of us don't have investors a lot of times, so you got to be pretty innovative. And it started off as providing, fully outsourced, marketing and strategy services for small to medium businesses. And then, it continued to evolve, and identifying that there was a lot of people that just weren't aware of the techniques and strategies that I've developed over the years in launching and building my companies, just becoming a student of innovative growth hacking techniques and using freelancing and outsourcing and, blending together creative thinking in that process. To get a business out of the ground and get it, launched. So at Entreholic, again, it's this addiction to entrepreneurial type thinking to help companies when it comes to their digital marketing strategy and integrative growth techniques. And then, for those who aren't in a place to purchase services, we provide a whole set of online education and courses and email series and things that help provide additional information as they're kind of learning on their own before they're in a place to, hire or work with a company.
And I want to point something out here, and this is one thing I really like about what you're doing here, is the value and the content and the level of content that you're giving away free. I don't understand it. If I was consulting with you, I'd be like, you're insane. I really would be, because that stuff should be paid content. You are giving out so much value. It's amazing. Well done. I don't know why you do it. I think you're a little crazy. I would tell you to charge because the stuff is – because it's not fluff. So many people put out stuff that is, okay, let me give you a little bit about it, but I'm not going to tell you how to implement it. I'm just going to kind of tell you the concept. And if you really want to know, you got to pay me to do it. You pump out amazing data, and I don't get spammed. I hate spam.
Well, it's I call it earning the right to stay in people's inboxes, right? And email, honestly, is still one of the most, if not the most powerful digital channel out there, aside from all the different, ways that there are to connect with people. And, I just want to earn the right to stay in people's inboxes. And, that we do certainly have some paid elements to what we provide. But if I can demonstrate value and give you some insights and techniques that are going to help, and there's lots of people that never purchase from us, and they get a lot of value from what we provide, but there's others that want to take it to another level and go deeper in their learning and help with some of the techniques that we teach. So that's where there's got to earn revenue to put bread on the table.
I like that. Earn the right and continue to earn the right to remain in their inbox. Man, I tell you should do an entire series about that, because I think so often somebody gets your email address and all of a sudden they're just every day. I literally had to unsubscribe to some guy in a day because I got 6 emails in one day. I'm like, you're insane. You're done. Well,
so many of them, that's the formula that a lot of people follow. And depending on, who their target audience is and their customers and so forth. I know if it's Lululemon, my wife will allow them to have a dozen emails in their inbox every single day. So when they know their audience, they know exactly what that threshold is. And for some people it is. But, Thor, the way I like to talk about it, and there's this infographic I developed that people always identify with, and it's 2 wagon wheels. It's pretty simple that I kind of put up on the screen. And, I talk about all the money in business a lot of times is lost in the warm leads, right? The hot ones that are going to buy your product, they jump on it, they buy immediately. The cold ones that are never going to be a customer, they fall right off the radar. But all the warm ones that have showed some kind of interest, maybe they came to your website but didn't want to pick up the phone and call you, and they left because they didn't have another way to engage, or that business card you got at a networking event that's just sitting on your desk collecting dust. Those are the warm ones, the ones that showed interest that needed ongoing follow-up. And if you think of those two wagon wheels, one is the nurture wheel, and the other wagon wheel is life and business events. And that nurture wheel, that's my content, right? That's whether it's staying in your LinkedIn feed, your social media feed, your email inbox, even direct mail, even traditional channels. That one wheel is the nurture wheel, and it's earning the right to stay in front of people. It may be a month from now, it may be 2 years from now that they buy, but if you earn the right to stay on that wheel, the other wheel, which is life and business events, there will be something that comes around where you are staying in front of them at the right time when they're ready to engage. And I can't tell you the number of companies that I've gotten the right content, the right information. I'm not at the right place to buy right now, but they've earned the right to stay in my inbox. So when that need comes about for me to need to purchase their software or their product or their lawn cutting service, that they're top of mind. And that's the intersection of those two is where so much money is lost. And if you can find a way to do it, and with technology the way that it is now, with the tools that are out there that are a lot of free ones and inexpensive tools that exist, and then combined with using freelancing and outsourcing, you can build that nurture wheel very cost effectively relative to what it used to cost back in the day when it was nothing but direct mail and radio and TV. Those are pretty pricey tags to have to be able to stay in front of someone.
Well, this podcast is not going to be about theory. It's going to be about strategy and specific strategy. So let's dive into some of those tools. I'm out here marketing. How often do I do it? What tools do I use? Give us some specifics.
Well, I kind of look at when it comes to the digital marketing side of things, it's really an ecosystem. It's not just one component, right? All of it kind of feeds into one another. Your website doesn't exist in a vacuum to your email marketing or your social media presence or your content marketing. So it's a number of different things that are kind of all cogs in a system that work together. And your messaging that you have on your website needs to be consistent in your email marketing and your social media marketing and everything in between. When I talk about some of the things that we teach in our online courses and also when I do a lot of workshops and speaking is it's really kind of 3 components. One is the whole freelancer outsourcer market. The other is unique free or inexpensive technology tools. And the third component, Thor, is honestly just creative thinking. And it's how you blend those 3 together is what you have to do in today's business world to stay alive. Because things are moving so fast and so quick. You got to know how to use those things. And what I really talk about is leveraging your time, your money, and your resources by using some of those techniques. And the freelancer outsourcer market is a big part of it. When I go talk in front of groups, maybe 10% raise their hand and are familiar with some of the platforms and resources that are out there. or maybe they tried it one time or heard some bad information. They usually think of a bad customer service experience with someone in another country. But the freelancer and outsourcer market is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, right now in the United States, nearly 50% of workers, well, actually, 1 in 3 workers are freelance workers. And by 2020, it's going to be 50% or more are freelancers. Incredibly talented people with incredible skill sets, because it's faster than ever to learn a new skill or a new ability. And people are just choosing that lifestyle. They want to be able to work when they want to work and have the flexibility. And you can get unbelievable work done by individuals all over the world, high quality, great work for very, very low cost, because they don't deal with the overhead of working at a traditional company. And people are just always amazed at what they can get done for.
So we're talking about
for the cost.
Are we talking about Upwork and Fiverr? Is there another resource? Where do people go?
Yeah, Upwork is one of the big platforms. It used to be Elance and Odesk, and the two of those blended together and became Upwork.com. And a lot of Fortune 100 companies even use that. Fiverr is another one of the platforms that's made a lot of progress in the years. And there's dozens of them, literally. Those are two of the top platforms that are out there. Freelancer.com is another one of the big platforms. 123employee.com is another one that's there. And so depending on the type of work that you're wanting to get done, depends on which type of platform that you use typically to find freelancers to do work for you.
Now, I know that you're going to include a whole bunch of free tools at the end of this, and it's going to be in the show notes as well. So if they are in the show notes, you can just kind of point us that way. But do you also give us some ideas on how to manage this, how to do it properly, so you don't rush off into Upwork, and spend a bunch of money and then not know how to manage it and get, quite frankly, a horrible return?
Well, I tell you, these platforms have definitely improved a lot from what they used to. So you can find good quality workers, you can manage them, you can manage the payment process, but it really starts with having a very clearly defined idea of what you're looking for. And that's where, I was talking about the third component is the creative thinking. So if you know that the freelancer outsourcer market exists, it's knowing what all's possible, all the stuff that can be done, and then applying some creative thinking on how you can leverage that along with creative technology tools to get things executed. So one of those things is when you're writing job descriptions, particularly, and you're looking for a freelancer to do work, if you're going to attract the freelancers that do the best work, you better have a well-done job description with good clarity on exactly what you want, and use screencasting tools like, it's one I've shared in my Addictive Tools Series, where you record your screen and you can just post a link there and they can watch your recording of exactly, what your request is of the work that you want to get done, because they live and die by their ratings. And if you do a poor job of describing what you want, they know that you're probably going to be a poor communicator, and you're not going to attract and probably going to give them a poor review because you have the wrong type of expectations and you're not a good communicator, and you're going to attract probably some of the lower quality freelancers that are out there. So having a good, well done job description, and then once you've posted that and you get people that are posting interest in your job, being able to vet the ones that are positioning themselves to take the job, looking at their work history, looking at their experience. We've done a lot of that ourselves. That's part of sort of what we've created in our online course, as well as how you go through that process to vet and know which ones are going to do a good job and which ones aren't.
That's great. So that's on your online program?
Correct. Yeah, one of the online course that we developed, because I just kept getting such demand for understanding all of this information that we kind of sort of figured out. That I figured out in growing my businesses over the last number of years, and I just kept getting asked. And I ended up creating these different PowerPoints, and I had case studies where I would show people what creative, crafty things that we did, and it just kept evolving. And then I kept getting asked to speak at larger groups, and frankly, I'm like, you know what? I just need to get all this stuff put into an online platform where people can go and learn everything soup to nuts about this entire process. How you use freelancers and outsourcers to validate a business concept or launch or grow a company cost effectively, which tools and techniques that you can use that exist out there that most people aren't aware of. And like I said, just combining some creative thinking on how you can piece those things together to really kind of get a desired result.
So you just got tired of taking my phone calls, asking all the questions. You're like, I'm just going to form a course around it.
Exactly. I mean, it's just, there's creative things that people just aren't, until you kind of show them examples that they don't really quite, understand, like data mining.
Yeah. I was just going to go there. You blew my mind the first time you told me about this concept. Please tell the audience.
People ask me all the time, what's the difference between responsibility and accountability? Well, a lot, actually. Responsibility is the thing that makes me, as a business owner and an entrepreneur, get out of bed every day, make all the phone calls, do what has to be done for the sake of my business. And the success of my business pretty much lies solely on my shoulders. Enter accountability. If you're an entrepreneur or business owner and you're just not quite seeing the results you want, you might just think for a second how you could benefit from having a partner. And I'm not talking about some Shark Tank scenario where somebody gets a huge percentage of the business you've created. I'm talking about Thor Conklin. He's a profitability consultant and an accountability master. If this sounds like something interesting to you or something that you could benefit from, I challenge you to take responsibility for yourself and for your business and go to thorconklin.com/accountability. That's really all you got to do. Take the first step to the best business decision you'll ever make. thorconklin.com/accountability.
Well, the thing is that when you're trying to get things done, there's tons of data that exists on the web, right? On the internet in a lot of different formats. And getting that data in a way that you can use it for whatever your purposes are is very, very valuable. And a lot of people just aren't familiar with the techniques that can be used. And so, one's called kind of data mining or data scraping, where there's data that exists out there. So, for example, we wanted to get a list. We had a product, and we were trying to get a list of all of the psychologists that were in the Southeast. And you can go buy certain lists, and the lists aren't good quality a lot of times, and you don't get all the contact information. So we were able to get a freelancer that we hired, had a very clear job description. They were able to go and data mine the web and go pull and crawl all the websites of all psychologists in the Southeast and assemble a spreadsheet that has every single bit of their contact information, their website, their address, their email address, their LinkedIn handle, their Twitter handle, their Facebook handle, the pricing of whatever their services are that they offer. Any data that you want to have, you can have it assembled, put together, and using outsourcers, you can get 1,000 records done for $120 to $150. And now you have an incredible rich data list that you can use. And that's just an example for getting leads. If you got a product that you're selling, like in our example, to psychologists, you can use that approach. The other thing is market intelligence, right? If you're going to launch a new product, so many people launch a product, they spend a bunch of time and money on it before they've really evaluated the marketplace. And so I usually, actually, a personal example with my father's actually an amazing woodworker, and he created and manufactured these play kitchens for my nieces, and people went crazy about them. They loved them, and he thought, wow, maybe we could look at doing this as a business. So I said, first, let's look and see what the market is for play kitchens, which you've seen, the little mini kitchens that children play with sinks and little, refrigerators. So I hired a data scraper, and I said, I want you to search the entire web for all of these different search terms: play kitchens, children's play kitchens, plastic play kitchens. I want you to assemble a whole list. I want you to put the URL. I want you to put the price point. I want you to put the shipping costs, and I want you to actually get an image of the picture of it and post it. And was able to get all that information put into a spreadsheet, in 3 or 4 days for less than $20. And so we had instant
$20
intelligence. Yeah, I mean, it was just they're using a combination. So the freelancers we work with, some of them use combinations of software that they write, the bots that'll scrape and that they custom do to pull and assemble that information, combined with some manual searching in some cases. So we were able to look at and see, okay, because he was wanting to make higher end types of play kitchens, and that we were going to need to charge $800 to $1,000, and see what is the market bear out there, what is the average price point that we're going to have to compete with. And shipping was another big thing, because you're going to have to pay shipping to ship a heavier furniture grade quality play kitchen versus plastic, and want to see what that comparison was. So it's just one example. If you're looking to launch a product or a service in any kind of space, data scrape and see what all your competitors are out there. We did a similar one in the social media space. We were looking at actually going into the pet industry and offering social media management services for veterinarians, dog groomers, pet boarders, and see, is that a valid market? So was able to get a freelancer. I said, look, I want you to go scrape the web, and I want you to search any kind of marketing agency that's offering services in the pet industry. And I want you to go pull their website. Then I want you to look on their website and see what they're charging for their prices. And then if they have a downloadable brochure, I want you to download all their brochures, and I want you to put all of them in a zip file for me and send it to me. And within 4 to 5 days, for around $20, $25, I had a list of all the marketing firms that offered services to the pet industry, and I could instantly see how they're marketing themselves, what their price points were, what they were charging. And if they had a brochure on their website that was downloadable, I got a nice zip file and was able to look at all of the brochures that were out there, so I could see exactly how they're branding themselves. So instant market intelligence of my competitors.
For $25.
Right. And then you couple, what I was talking about, you couple these things together. So now, that was one initiative. Let me see what all the competitors look like in that space. So give me a list of all of them. Now, I want to actually make a direct outbound initiative and test that market. Is this something that's of interest in that market, and what are they charging? So I had a data scraper go and data scrape a list of all the pet boarders, veterinarians, groomers, in a 3-state area. Did Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, I believe, is what we did. And so I could get a good sample set. So we got about, a couple hundred assembled, within a couple of days. $20, $25, had that list, had their phone numbers. And then I have a freelancer telemarketing group that I work with, incredible firm out of the Philippines, perfect English accents for $12 an hour. They make 25 calls an hour. And I said, look, I want you to make an outbound call campaign to this whole group of around 200. And I want you to ask them, are they currently using social media in their practice? That we're just doing a survey. Are you currently using social media? If so, what are you paying for it? So I could immediately find out very quickly, is this a market I wanted to go into? And for $100, I'm able to get hundreds of calls made, and instantly, and they filled out a Google Doc as they were completing it, telling me the responses as they made these outbound calls to find out if it would be a valid market. And what we found out, Thor, honestly, is that it's such a viral market when it comes to social media that these guys don't need anyone to manage their social media. It just organically grows and evolves from their own customer base. So before I spent a bunch of money and time trying to go and market and go after that space and offering social media services, I was able to data scrape all my competitors and do a data scrape of all the locations and outbound calling campaign and see, is this a viable market?
Man, you could even use this for a prospect. If you're selling a service that's call it $1,000 or above, you could literally just say, okay, I want to data scrape this company and the president of this company and find out a whole bunch of information prior to even meeting them.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like I said, you're really limited only by your creativity, frankly. And when you start understanding what data exists out there, you can scrape and assemble from any. I mean, one of the other techniques we talk about is, data scraping for influencers. Influencer marketing is a big one. So, if you're selling a product in a certain industry, if you go to the trade show sites for a lot of these industries and you go look on the, any industry, most part has some kind of a, trade show. And at that trade show, there are thought leaders. The main thought leaders in that industry are usually selected to be speakers. Well, those are people you want to know about your product. So if you're going into a brand new industry, and if you go have a data scraper say, look, go search for all the trade show industry sites that are out there, then I want you to go to the speaker tab on all of those websites, and I want you to look and see who the speakers are, and I want you to take that information, get their name, then cross-reference it to other places on the web, and then build out a whole data set so I know who all the influencers are in, say, the manufacturing industry or the pet industry, again, for example. If you've got a new widget for the pet industry, and if you go to all the pet industry trade shows and you scrape all the thought leaders, and then you do an outbound email campaign, reach as well as connect with them on LinkedIn and say, hey, saw that you were a speaker at XYZ trade show, wasn't able to make it, but wanted to see if I could get a copy of your slides and tell you about what we're doing. See, that's a creative angle. They always usually give slides away when they're speakers at trade shows. And we actually did this in an industry we were working in. And I got a 25% response rate from all the speakers that we scraped from a trade show saying, hey, wasn't able to make it, would love to get a copy of your slides and tell you about what we're doing. And they're flattered, A, because you're saying that you want to get a copy of their slides and their information to share with your team. But then B, super low cost, you're connecting with top authorities in your industry who are going to know about your product, and it could turn into an opportunity.
That is amazing.
Well, it's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and kind of figuring out different techniques, but it's again, it's back to you're limited only by creativity when you know the data that's out there and people you want to connect with, or, I even use it in my personal life. For example, my wife and I, when we were going to get married, I don't want to spend 3 hours on a Saturday trying.
I thought you were going to say that you were data scraping for a bride. I'm glad. All right, I'm glad we didn't have to cut that piece out of the episode.
Not that desperate, But hey,
but there might be something here, right? A new dating app. I like this. Maybe we shouldn't record this. We'll just do this offline.
Well, if the data's out there, you can get it assembled and organized in a way that's meaningful. Because, that's what so much is. Big data that everybody talks about. It's out there, and it's being able to who can harness it, organize it, and then make it actionable. And so the example I was just talking about. For example, with my wife, we wanted to get married in kind of a rustic barn type of outdoor setting, somewhere in Georgia. And I'm not going to spend 3 hours researching on a Saturday of like all the rustic barn locations and get directories and copy and paste all the emails and the contact of the event coordinator and so forth. So I hired my outsourcer, data admin. I want you to search these terms. I want you to Google all of these, and I want you to assemble a whole list of every single place that has, rustic outdoor settings. I want you to put the website. I want you to put the email address of whoever the event coordinator is, so that I can have just a master list created. Then I can spend my time just putting an email out to all of them saying that we're interested and give me a quote for services. So saved us 3 hours on a Saturday, and I was able to get, a list for, I don't know, $10 or $15 in a couple of days.
And then you could add, so it's actually somebody to go ahead and email them.
Right.
Do that piece as well. That's amazing.
Another step.
Exactly. Just add one more piece. I absolutely agree with you that where the economy is going is definitely on an outsourced basis. You see the millennials more and more having multiple gigs, side gigs, primary gig. That's just kind of their mentality that I don't want to go to work for just one company. I want to go to work for me. And how do I do this? And it's a global economy now. I think one of the things that the president's going to have a difficult time in his tenure in the United States for the next 4 years is how to bring jobs back to America, because I think so much of this is getting outsourced. Yes, some in the United States, some out of the United States, but that's where the economy is moving. It's like wherever people are and have a computer, have a connection, this stuff is going all over the world. It's viral.
Certainly. No, people are, like I said, communication technology has improved more than ever. Skype and Slack and communication platforms and screencasting, which is an amazing tool, highly recommend, which we can talk about. And then just the whole corporate stability is not there like it used to be. And people are able to rapidly build skills faster than they ever have been before to do virtual type work, whether it's graphic design or web development work or data mining type things. Those walls are coming down, and people just they prefer the flexibility that the freelancer life kind of allows. And for example, and it's not, that's one of the misconceptions that I talk about too when we're doing our course, is that it's all not just purely international. It definitely is a lot of folks in the United States. And we have a stay-at-home mom in Baltimore who's an unbelievable content writer for us. She actually has a tutoring business that she has, but she's a stay-at-home mom, and she writes unbelievable blog content, press releases, white papers. And we have another similar situation up in Boston we work with. A woman that was like corporately trained in graphic design and decided to set up her own home studio. Been using her for 7 years now, and she cranks out white papers and infographics and guides for us, very low cost, very quick. Because that's one of the big advantages of using the freelancer market as well, is that you're getting highly skilled work, you're getting quick turnarounds and flexibility, you're getting variable cost, and that's the biggest thing for people in business. Us, whether you're starting a company or have an existing business, you don't necessarily need to hire a full-time person to do certain things, or you got to wait until you can afford a full-time salary. With this, whether it's outbound telemarketing services that you can buy in 20-hour blocks, or it's graphic design work or content writing or SEO or website development or anything, you can turn it on and turn it off. Use what you need, pay for it, and turn it off. And I think that the future of work for a lot of internal, especially when it comes to marketing operations staff, is they're not going to be doing a lot of the work. They're going to become kind of a maestro over an orchestra of highly skilled individuals who will be doing the work, almost kind of like the contractor subcontractor mentality. And we work with a lot of marketing directors now that we teach, and they take our course in train on it. So instead of them hiring a bunch of people internally to sit there in a corner and post on social media and write blogs, is they now empower a team to learn how to build a global team of video developers and graphic designers and content writers and the whole range. We had a company here in Atlanta we were working with that's in the watch industry, and they had someone internally that was writing blogs, and we ended up teaching them how to use freelancers, and they found this amazing guy in New Zealand, of all places, that was super passionate about watches, an incredible blog writer, and for a fraction of the cost was able to crank out content for them so that staff could now focus on managing a team of people to get 10 times the amount of stuff done than them doing it themselves. So it comes back to leveraging your time, your money, and your resources, whether you're starting a company trying to get it out of the ground or you're trying to grow a business. You got to make dollars and time stretch as far as possible.
So let's talk about that leveraging. What do you say to the guy or the girl that has their business? They might be a solopreneur, and they're just buried in all kinds of different things. Is there someone that they can go to be that focal point that will be basically the focal point for all the different services that they need to get?
Well, I mean, there's, some of the platforms have talent specialists if you pay a premium on them, and they will actually research and find people for you a lot of times. So if you're an existing business and you're wanting to engage this process and you want to have someone find those people for you, like I said, you can pay a premium fee, and some of them will provide that service. Or you just hire, you hire someone, you hire a young, energetic individual that's hungry to learn, and for a pretty low cost, or even an intern. I mean, I've had this happen multiple times. I work with companies, and like with this online course that we've developed, I'm like, look, hire this person with this profile that's A-type, high energy, interested in wants to learn kind of the new innovative ways to be a modern marketer, and put them through this course, teach them all A to Z, all the case studies, and they will be empowered now to leverage these platforms to do whatever you need internally. We've got this one German company we were working with recently, and they just did that. They hired an intern, got the course that we provided, and this young man they're working with now, I mean, just completely opened his eyes of all the stuff he could get done. And now he's getting, outbound telemarketing done for their sales teams. He's getting graphics design and brochures and literature done. And so he's now empowered to get a bunch of stuff cranked through the pipe that wouldn't have gotten done otherwise.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't even think about that. You're right. Bring somebody in. They don't even have to be full-time, but if you've got somebody on your team acting as that focal point, and you could do that pretty cheap, as you just mentioned, then just have them act and grab the services online. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, the skill set's out there, and I've found that especially you would think that a lot of the younger generation it'd be second nature to them to know a lot of these platforms. But I tell you, I speak to a lot of groups and entrepreneur groups and younger folks and older. And I mean, literally across all of them, less than 10% of the time they raise their hand when I say, how many of you have heard of X, Y, and Z? And so a lot of them just aren't familiar, but you teach them, they did grow up with technology and they're very familiar with it. And it doesn't, I mean, younger or older, just anybody who's got a passion for learning and can quickly pick up things. You teach them these platforms, and it just will literally redefine how they execute.
Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. After listening to several of the shows, if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is, send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call. No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, and if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources, discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.
That brings us to the end of another episode of the Peak Performers Podcast. Be on the lookout for part 2 with Brad Stevens, where we'll discuss data mining in unconventional areas, as well as the importance of outsourcing. That's next time, right here on the Peak Performers Podcast. We'll see you at the top.